Major study by a high-profile commission has called for limiting the power of the Prime Minister to hand out peerages.
Chaired by the former Attorney General, Dominic Grieve, who we'll be speaking to later in the programme, the report lays out several recommendations for an incoming government that aims to combat accusations of cronyism.
Well, in the studio is former Labour Party official Richard Power Sayeed. Richard, good morning.
Good morning.
So, summarise for us, what are the recommendations?
So it starts off with the kind of symbolic stuff, knighthoods, damehoods, that sort of thing. The Prime Minister should have less control over it. Then it's the more political stuff. It's peerages. Again, the Prime Minister should have less control over it. Then there's the sort of slightly more wonky things which actually really matter. The ministerial code, the rules that ministers have got to abide by. Again, the Prime Minister should have less control over what happens if a minister breaks those rules. And then there's things like a COBA, the committee which decides if politicians or civil servants want to go into the private sector after they've been working in politics, should they be allowed to do that immediately, that kind of thing. That should get statutory powers. It should have more teeth so that, again, the Prime Minister can't overrule it.
If you are going to take powers away from the Prime Minister, who do you invest them in to make decisions about this?
It's a very good question. And the short answer is a committee which eventually, if you kind of like go backwards, has been nominated by politicians. But that process of them getting nominated, them having their role for quite a long time means they've got a bit more power to say no to politicians when they try to make demands of them.
What is the likelihood that this will actually happen? Because, I mean, Dominic Grieve carries a lot of credibility, doesn't he, as someone who's held previous ministerial positions in the Attorney General, etc. And there is, I think, a public understanding that the honours system appears to be very easily corrupted. I mean, you've got Charlotte Owen, the woman who worked in Boris Johnson's office, who was given a peerage. We've got Paula Venables, who was given a CBE, the former chief executive of the Post Office, who's now handed that back, but she got that for her time at the Post Office while there was this incredible cover-up going on in the Post Office scandal. So this sort of patronage and cronyism is at least a perception of what's going on. Does the actual report say, actually, this cronyism is happening and we need to stop it, or it's just a perception of the cronyism?
I think the report's pretty clear that there are some really egregious examples across the different bits of peerages and the other bits of the honours system. If you take that more symbolic stuff, the knighthoods, the damehoods, you think about Boris Johnson trying to make his dad, Stanley, give him a knighthood, you know, basically for being a fun old fella or whatever it is. You know, Prince Charles, when he was Prince Charles, giving a knighthood, I think kind of in secret, to a Saudi tycoon who'd donated 2 million quid to to Prince Charles's good causes and his residences and things like that. You know, the fact that it's still got empire in the name of it. I mean, this isn't what's in the report.
Is that recommended? There's no recommendation in the
there's
report,
nothing to do with that. That's just my personal views, which I'm sticking in there. I mean, look,
a lot of people find the insinuations of empire offensive nowadays.
Look, the British Empire was objectively incredibly violent and horribly racist, and some people think that that's OK because, I don't know, it made the trains run on time or whatever. Personally, I think that doesn't really matter when you're killing loads of people and stealing their stuff.
But they're not saying that we should take empire out of the...
Sadly, they're
These things very clear, what the report says.
So,
talking about your personal views then, if we were going to review the system, how would it look different?
So I think the thing is that this review is giving us some sort of tweaks that Keir Starmer could implement relatively quickly when he comes into power. No one's expecting the Tories to do this.
If he comes into power.
If he comes into power. We are very much expecting it to. I'll be out there on the doorstep as a former Labour official, as you can imagine. But these are tweaks which only get you so far. I think, actually, there's a particular issue with peerages, right? Because if you take away Keir Starmer's right when he becomes Prime Minister to do this very kind of politicised thing of packing the House of Lords with loads of Labour
Which is what Labour did last time they were in power. They tried to redress the balance because of the inbuilt Tory majority.
So in '97, that's what Blair did. Then in 2010, totally fair enough, David Cameron became Prime Minister. He redressed the balance by putting loads of Tories in. You actually putting Keir Starmer at a really significant disadvantage if you don't give him the same right. The only solution...
You want to see an elected upper chamber, don't you?
I do, exactly. The only solution is an elected upper chamber, and that's the democratic thing to do.
And that isn't what this report is calling for?
No. What I think Dominic Grieve would probably say, don't want to put words into his mouth, but I imagine he would say having an upper chamber where you've got all of this expertise, all of this experience is a really good thing. The problem is, right, the story of democracy in this country and around the world is the story of people saying, oh, you know how you've politely asked for a vote on something? Well, we don't really want to give it to you because we don't trust you to choose the right people. And then the people of this country say, screw that, we are demanding a vote on this thing, and then actually things turn out pretty well.
But no one's demanding a vote, well, apart from you. I don't see a great public outcry demanding an elected upper chamber, and then you end up with a situation where you have very low numbers of votes for something that people aren't that bothered about.
The moment that you take significant powers away from something like the House of Lords, which has progressively lost its powers over about 120 years, then, yeah, people don't care about it so much. Then they don't care if it's not elected. If we had an elected upper chamber, it would have to be much more powerful, and then people would care about it.
Well, we can put some of those questions a little bit later when we speak to Dominic on the programme. Richard, for now, thank you ever so much. We've been asking you this morning, and do get in touch. Would taking away the Prime Minister's powers to hand out honours help rid politics of cronyism?